Did you know that in Australia, over 100,000 people are living on expired visas right now? And according to government reports, that number is growing every single year. Now, here's the shocking part. In 2025, authorities are preparing for some of the largest immigration raids in decades, operations that could happen in workplaces, neighborhoods, or even your own street. The big question is, why now? And who will be targeted? Some say it's about protecting jobs, others claim it's about national security, while critics argue it's just politics playing out before the next election. But one thing is certain, these raids will touch thousands of lives and maybe even people you know. In this video, we'll break down 10 powerful reasons why these raids are happening and what they really mean for your safety, your community, and the future of Australia. Stay with me till the end. Number 10. New technology for tracking. One of the most important, and perhaps the most unsettling, reasons behind the coming immigration raids in 2025 is the rapid rise of new tracking technology. Unlike the old days when raids depended heavily on tip-offs or manual checks, today's enforcement teams have access to artificial intelligence, advanced databases, and real-time data sharing across multiple government departments. What does this mean in practice? It means authorities can now connect the dots between visa records, bank transactions, health data, phone activity, and even public transport use. Imagine missing a visa renewal deadline, and within days, your information is flagged across a national system that alerts immigration officers. This isn't science fiction, it's already happening. In recent years, pilot programs have tested facial recognition software at airports, AI-driven risk assessments, and cross-checking rental agreements with visa statuses. In 2025, these tools are expected to be rolled out on a much larger scale. For many undocumented residents, the walls are closing in. Every digital footprint, from applying for a job to opening a bank account, could trigger an alert. The bigger question is, how much privacy is left for ordinary Australians? While supporters argue that technology ensures fairness and efficiency, critics warn it could lead to mass surveillance that affects not only undocumented migrants, but also everyday citizens. The line between safety and intrusion has never been thinner. So, as these systems expand, it's not just a matter of raids happening more often. It's about raids becoming unavoidable because the technology leaves almost no room to hide. What do you think? Is this high-tech tracking making Australia safer, or is it crossing the line into something far more concerning? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button to stay with us on this journey, and let's keep uncovering the truth together. Number 9. International image diplomacy. Another powerful reason behind the immigration raids in 2025 is Australia's desire to protect and project its international image. On the global stage, how a country manages its borders speaks volumes about its strength, discipline, and credibility. For decades, Australia has been known for its strict immigration policies, from mandatory detention centres to offshore processing. These measures are not only about internal control, but also about sending a clear message abroad. Australia takes its immigration rules seriously. Diplomacy plays a major role here. When other countries see that Australia is actively raiding overstayers and cracking down on illegal employment, it creates a ripple effect. Foreign governments are less likely to ignore expired visas, and potential overstayers may think twice before risking a move. This is especially crucial in maintaining strong relations with neighbouring countries, particularly in Asia and the Pacific, where most short-term visitors and workers come from. A tough stance assures those governments that Australia is keeping migration in check, reducing tensions that might otherwise emerge from undocumented flows. There's also a reputational factor. In an era where global migration is under scrutiny, countries are often judged on how well they balance humanitarian concerns with law enforcement. By carrying out large-scale raids, Australia demonstrates to international allies, such as the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union, that it is aligned with global standards of border enforcement. This alignment is important for trade, security partnerships, and visa agreements. But there's a darker side too. Critics argue that such visible crackdowns are less about real threats and more about public relations theatre. By showing the world they are tough, governments gain political leverage, even if the actual impact on migration numbers is small. Still, for Australia in 2025, maintaining a tough international image will remain a driving force behind mass immigration raids. Number 8, strain on public services. One of the biggest reasons driving immigration raids in Australia in 2025 is the growing strain on public services. Across the country, everyday Australians are feeling the pressure in schools, hospitals, welfare systems, and public transport. Long waiting times in emergency departments, overcrowded classrooms, and stretched social programs have become part of daily conversation. While many factors contribute to this stress, such as population growth and underfunding, undocumented migration is often presented as a key part of the problem. Authorities argue that people who live in Australia without valid visas still use essential services like healthcare, education, and housing support, but without contributing fairly through taxes or legal employment. This imbalance, they claim, places an extra burden on systems already running at their limits. For example, teachers in some urban schools report struggling to meet the needs of rapidly growing student populations, while hospitals in major cities are forced to manage ever-lengthening queues. Even small towns feel the impact, with local councils facing higher demand for services without additional funding. From a political standpoint, the government uses this narrative to justify mass raids as a way to ease the load on public resources. By removing those without proper documentation, they argue, services can be directed more effectively towards citizens and legal residents. This reasoning resonates strongly with parts of the population who experience these strains firsthand, such as families waiting months for medical appointments or parents worried about overcrowded schools. However, critics countered that the issue is more complex. They point out that undocumented workers often take jobs in industries struggling to find labour, indirectly supporting the economy and, in turn, public seas. Vices. Still, the perception that undocumented migration worsens the strain on everyday life continues to fuel public support for crackdowns. In 2025, this perception is likely to be one of the central forces behind the intensification of immigration raids. Number 7. Political pressure elections. Political pressure is another key factor behind the immigration raids set to take place in 2025. Immigration has always been a highly sensitive and visible issue in Australian politics, and governments often use it to signal strength, control, and decisiveness to voters. When an election is approaching, the stakes rise even higher. Leaders and parties feel compelled to demonstrate they are tough on overstayers, illegal employment, and border enforcement, framing raids as evidence of effective governance. The timing of large-scale operations is rarely accidental. Historical patterns show that governments sometimes intensify immigration enforcement during politically sensitive periods, aiming to win public support or shift focus away from economic or social challenges. By publicly emphasizing the need for raids, politicians create a narrative of action and accountability, appealing to voters concerned about jobs, public services, or law and order. Beyond domestic politics, raids also allow leaders to send a clear message to critics that they are serious about policy implementation. For many citizens, the visibility of enforcement operations signals that the government is actively addressing issues that directly impact communities. This perceived responsiveness can translate into political leverage, especially in marginal electorates where small swings in voter sentiment matter most. However, this intersection of politics and enforcement is a double-edged sword. While it may satisfy certain voter bases, it can also generate controversy, drawing criticism from human rights organizations, immigrant advocacy groups, and international observers. Despite these risks, the link between political pressure, upcoming elections, and immigration raids is undeniable, and it helps explain why authorities may choose to escalate operations at strategic times, regardless of broader social consequences. In 2025, political calculations are expected to remain a driving force behind immigration raids, making them as much about votes and public perception as about border security or legal compliance. Number 6. Housing crisis population growth. Another major factor contributing to the immigration raids in Australia in 2025 is the ongoing housing crisis combined with rapid population growth. Across major cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, housing prices have skyrocketed, rental properties are in short supply, and affordability has become a daily struggle for many Australian families. Governments argue that undocumented residents, by living and working in the country without legal status, add to the pressure on an already strained housing market. Population growth is another key piece of the puzzle. Australia has one of the highest per capita immigration rates in the world, and while legal migration brings economic benefits, untracked or undocumented residents complicate urban planning and resource allocation. The more people living in cities without proper registration or oversight, the harder it becomes for authorities to plan housing, infrastructure, and essential services efficiently. This scenario fuels the perception that raids are necessary to protect housing availability for citizens and legal residents. The crisis is felt most acutely by renters and first-time homebuyers. Families are competing for limited apartments, students struggle to find affordable rooms, and neighborhoods experience overcrowding. In this environment, immigration enforcement becomes a tool not only to uphold the law, but also to alleviate public frustration over housing shortages. By reducing the number of undocumented residents, authorities hope to ease pressure on the rental market and give more visibility and control over population numbers. Critics, however, argue that raids are a superficial solution to a much larger systemic issue. Housing shortages stem from long-term policy failures, insufficient construction, and skyrocketing property speculation, not just undocumented migration. Nevertheless, in 2025, the government's narrative frames raids as a necessary response to the housing crunch, linking enforcement directly to public sentiment and the urgent need to manage population growth responsibly. This combination of high demand, limited supply, and population pressures ensures that housing remains a central motivator behind immigration crackdowns, making it one of the most tangible reasons that raids are being intensified. Number 5. Economic pressure. Job competition. Economic concerns are at the heart of many debates surrounding the immigration raids in Australia in 2025. Rising unemployment, inflation, and the cost of living have left many Australians worried about their livelihoods. In this climate, immigration, particularly undocumented migration, is often framed as a factor that intensifies job competition and increases financial stress for citizens and legal residents alike. Authorities argue that enforcing visa compliance and cracking down on illegal employment can help protect local jobs and ensure fair wages in sectors vulnerable to exploitation. Industries such as construction, agriculture, hospitality, and retail frequently rely on migrant labour, and undocumented workers often fill positions at lower wages, which can inadvertently undercut the local workforce. While these jobs are essential for the economy, the presence of undocumented workers creates a perceived imbalance. Some argue that it reduces opportunities for citizens or legal residents, while others see it as a necessary part of keeping industries running. The government uses this perception to justify mass raids as a measure to secure the labour market and maintain economic fairness. Economic pressure also extends beyond employment. Housing affordability, access to welfare benefits, and public resources are all intertwined with perceptions of migration and economic strain. By enforcing immigration laws more strictly, authorities aim to demonstrate to the public that they are taking active steps to address economic pressures linked to undocumented populations. At the same time, critics point out that undocumented workers contribute significantly to the economy, paying taxes indirectly and supporting essential services. Despite this, the narrative of economic competition remains a powerful motivator for raids, especially when combined with political messaging and public concern. In 2025, economic realities and fears of job competition are expected to remain a central reason behind intensified immigration raids, making the issue not only a legal matter but also one of social and financial tension that resonates with communities across the country. Number 4. National security concerns. National security concerns have long been cited as a critical reason for immigration enforcement in Australia, and in 2025, they remain a major driving force behind mass raids. The government emphasises that undocumented migration is not just a legal issue, it can also pose potential risks to public safety and national security. Overstayers or undocumented individuals are often harder to track, making it more challenging for authorities to monitor criminal activity, enforce laws, or respond effectively in cases involving terrorism, organised crime, or other serious offences. Authorities argue that immigration raids are necessary to identify and remove high-risk individuals from the country. This includes people who may have been involved in illegal activities abroad or who are considered a threat due to associations with criminal networks. By conducting large-scale operations, the government aims to demonstrate that Australia is actively protecting its citizens, neighbourhoods, and institutions from potential harm. The raids are not random, they are carefully planned and targeted, using intelligence and data to ensure that the right individuals are located and investigated. Beyond immediate safety, national security concerns also play into broader public perceptions. Communities want to feel that their streets, workplaces, and schools are safe. The presence of undocumented migrants, especially when linked to illegal employment or criminal networks, can heighten fear and uncertainty. Government messaging often frames raids as a proactive measure to reassure citizens and reduce potential threats before they escalate. While critics argue that linking immigration enforcement too closely to national security can exaggerate risks and justify heavy-handed measures, the narrative remains persuasive. In 2025, concerns about terrorism, organized crime, and illegal activity continue to strengthen the rationale for mass raids, making national security one of the most compelling reasons cited by authorities. The focus is clear. Protecting citizens and maintaining a secure, orderly society is central to the government's enforcement strategy. Number 3. Rise in illegal employment. A major factor behind the upcoming immigration raids in 2025 is the significant rise in illegal employment across Australia. Businesses in industries such as construction, agriculture, hospitality, and cleaning services have increasingly relied on workers without proper visas or documentation. While this labour often fills critical gaps, it creates an environment where exploitation and unfair competition can flourish, undermining both local workers and the rule of law. Authorities have observed that some companies knowingly hire undocumented workers to reduce labour costs, sometimes paying well below minimum wage or bypassing tax and insurance obligations. This not only impacts Australian citizens seeking fair employment, but also strains social systems when undocumented workers access essential services without contributing fully to taxes. By cracking down on illegal employment, immigration raids aim to restore balance in the labour market and ensure businesses adhere to legal hiring practices. The problem has become more visible in rural and regional areas, where industries heavily depend on migrant labour. Farms, plantations, and small businesses often struggle to find legal workers willing to perform physically demanding or low-paying roles. While these jobs are essential for the economy, the lack of legal documentation creates vulnerabilities for both employees and employers. This gives authorities a clear mandate to intervene through targeted raids, inspections, and enforcement actions. Beyond economic fairness, there is also a security dimension. Workers without legal status are harder to track, making it difficult for authorities to monitor potential criminal activity or respond effectively to workplace disputes and abuses. Raids, in this context, serve a dual purpose, ensuring that employers follow the law while also maintaining broader community safety and accountability. As illegal employment continues to rise, it remains one of the strongest justifications for the government's planned 2025 raids. By addressing this issue, authorities aim to protect the workforce, enforce compliance, and send a clear signal that exploiting undocumented labour will no longer be tolerated. Number 2. Overstayed visas. One of the most common triggers for the immigration raids in 2025 is the issue of overstayed visas. Thousands of individuals who entered Australia legally, whether on tourist, student, or work visas, have remained in the country beyond their permitted stay. While some overstays happen unintentionally due to missed deadlines or bureaucratic delays, a significant number are deliberate, creating a growing population of undocumented residents. Authorities see this as a major legal and administrative challenge, as tracking, locating, and managing overstayers requires substantial resources. Overstaying a visa is not just a paperwork problem, it carries serious implications for law enforcement, public services, and social cohesion. Individuals without valid status may be working illegally, living in unregistered housing, or using public services without contributing through taxes. From the government's perspective, unchecked overstays undermine the integrity of the immigration system, signalling that rules can be bypassed without consequence. This has prompted a push for mass raids to locate overstayers, enforce compliance, and restore confidence in the visa system. In practical terms, raids often involve cross-checking government databases, rental agreements, employment records, and travel documents to identify individuals who have exceeded their legal stay. Authorities may also conduct targeted operations in neighbourhoods, workplaces, and educational institutions known to host overstayers. These actions are not arbitrary. They are designed to send a clear message that overstaying a visa has real consequences. Critics argue that overstays are sometimes a symptom of broader issues such as delayed visa processing, lack of affordable housing, or economic necessity, and that enforcement alone cannot solve the problem. Nonetheless, in 2025, overstay visas remain a central justification for immigration raids, as the government seeks to assert control, uphold legal standards, and ensure that Australia's borders are respected. Number 1. Tougher border security measures. The foremost reason behind the immigration raids planned in Australia for 2025 is the government's push for tougher border security measures. Over the past decade, Australia has steadily increased its investment in border control, surveillance, and enforcement technologies. From advanced scanning systems at airports to AI-driven risk assessment programs, authorities are determined to tighten entry points and ensure that everyone crossing the border complies with the law. These measures are designed not just to prevent illegal entry, but also to identify individuals who may have slipped through the cracks after arrival. Stricter border enforcement is closely linked to national priorities like security, economic stability, and population management. The government emphasizes that a strong, well-regulated border is essential for protecting jobs, ensuring public safety, and maintaining the integrity of Australia's immigration system. By implementing tougher security protocols, authorities aim to reduce the number of overstayers, illegal workers, and undocumented residents, creating a system that is more predictable and easier to manage. These measures include the use of biometric data, integrated government databases, and real-time monitoring of travel and employment records. Such technology allows immigration officers to detect potential violations more efficiently, enabling targeted raids rather than random enforcement. In addition, public messaging about these security upgrades serves as a deterrent, signaling to potential overstayers or illegal entrants that evading the system is increasingly difficult. Critics acknowledge that while these measures improve oversight, they also raise questions about privacy, civil liberties, and the impact on innocent residents. Nevertheless, the government maintains that enhanced border security is essential for maintaining law and order, protecting communities, and preventing the challenges associated with undocumented migration. In 2025, tougher border measures will remain the cornerstone of Australia's immigration enforcement strategy, setting the stage for widespread raids aimed at ensuring compliance and reinforcing the country's commitment to a secure and orderly immigration system. As we've explored, the immigration raids coming to Australia in 2025 are not the result of a single issue. They are the outcome of multiple interconnected factors, each reinforcing the other. From tougher border security measures to the rise of new tracking technologies, from overstayed visas to illegal employment, the government's approach is both comprehensive and highly strategic. These raids are designed to restore control over a system that authorities believe has grown too complex, ensuring that the rules are enforced consistently across the country. Beyond legal compliance, broader societal concerns play a critical role. Economic pressure and job competition, coupled with housing shortages and population growth, have made immigration enforcement a highly visible and politically charged issue. Communities struggling with rising living costs, crowded schools, and overstretched public services are more likely to support measures aimed at reducing the strain. Meanwhile, the government's emphasis on national security and international image reinforces the narrative that these raids are not just administrative actions, but essential steps to protect citizens, maintain public trust, and uphold Australia's reputation abroad. It's important to recognise that while raids are framed as solutions to these challenges, they also carry complex social and ethical implications. Families, communities, and individuals are directly affected, and the human impact of enforcement operations cannot be ignored. Critics argue that many of the root causes, such as economic inequality, housing shortages, or processing delays, require systemic solutions beyond enforcement alone. In the end, the coming raids reflect a government strategy aimed at balancing law enforcement, economic stability, and public confidence. For residents and communities, the question is no longer hypothetical. How safe and secure are you, and what do these measures mean for the future of everyday life in Australia? Understanding the reasons behind these raids, all 10 of them, gives us a clearer picture of the forces shaping the country in 2025 and the challenges that lie ahead for both authorities and ordinary Australians.